Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, lovely people, depending on where you are watching us from in this beautiful world of ours. This morning, I'm really, really happy to connect with someone that I have been connected with by the lovely Ian Hawkins. And Ian, shout out to you. Thank you so much for connecting Kirsten and I, because Ian has spoken on my podcast many, many, many years ago. I think it must have been season 1 or 2. We are now at the end of season 6. And I'm just really, really happy because when you and I connected, Kirsten, you told me a story that touched me so deeply. And that is not often enough spoken about. So before we get into the story, I would love for you to introduce yourself to our audience. Welcome and thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. My name's Kirsten O'Connor, and what I've come to talk to you about and what I'm passionate in my life about is dealing with grief. And this came about for me through the loss or the death of my 24-year-old daughter, Kahlia. And it was also how I managed through the grief, how I understood what was happening inside of me and how I was able to, I don't like the term move through or move on.
Mm,
It's sort
mm,
of coping with it. I became
yeah,
very curious about what happens in the body, what happens in the
yeah,
mind, and what happened to me. And
yeah.
that eventually turned into a bit of a story. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. It's that's already quite an introduction because we get straight into that topic. I always know that behind every single book, behind every single website, behind every story about grief, there is a story that precedes it. And I'd love to start with that. Can you tell us how was life before Kalia's passing? Share a little bit, paint us the picture.
Yeah, we do the before and after, and
Yeah, we
it is
do. There's
such a
that
defining
line in the
moment.
sand.
Yeah,
It is,
yeah,
yeah. We talk about that all the time, that before and after. And I'd
yeah.
like to start with the before, if that's okay with you.
So I was extremely privileged. Kahlia was 24, but not only was she my daughter, but it sounds very cliche, but she was my best friend.
Mm,
We had so much in common and had such a lovely time together. It
mm,
wasn't always easy. Kahlia dealt with a lot of mental health issues. Um,
mm,
and so we grew closer, I think, because of those issues. We had to communicate really well, but
yeah.
I just enjoyed her absolutely being my person. And through her death, I still feel extremely privileged that I got to spend 24 years with her.
Yeah.
Um, I I think it's a choice, and you can, feel, and it's fine if you do feel that complete overwhelm and that complete sadness, which I certainly did for a while. But now,
Yeah.
and where I am, I just feel completely privileged that I got those 24 years with her.
Yeah. I really love that. I have also learned in my space, in my healing journey, to focus on the things that I have, the gifts that I have received, like I was 20 when I lost my dad, and I was 45 when Rob died, my husband died. And
Mm.
they're all such different losses. I always, my biggest thing in the work that I do is always like, please let's not compare losses, because all our journeys are so so unique. Our experiences, I wanted to say, are
Yes,
so unique.
yes.
And um and for me, there was this learning to look for the silver lining,
Mm.
learning to appreciate that more and more. However, I want to throw this ball back to you, and would really love to hear what you think of that. I feel that grief and gratitude are a very sensitive topic, because so
Mm.
often people suggest
Mm.
gratitude as a
Mm.
healing in grief, and I don't think it works like that. I I feel, this is my personal experience, that gratitude is a gift when it comes in grief, but it's not a way to heal grief. It
No.
doesn't work like that. I'd love to hear
Yeah.
where you sit with that. How does that land for you?
Yeah, I love you saying that. It's such an interesting thing. Kahlia and I were both, especially through her mental health journey, really loved sort of self-help, self-gratitude, being grateful for whatever we had. When she died, I had no gratitude. My whole world was blown open. It was unfair. I felt anger. I felt sadness in all of that. And to this day, my gratitude is different. So I think that can be a bit of that toxic positivity that comes through, that sort of controlling the way through. It doesn't work. It's that what I'm grateful for is that she taught me so many things to help me on my journey after her death. So it has to be that authentic, real moment. If you asked me to do a gratitude journal today and list 3 things each day, I couldn't do it. I could with my teeth gritted and and I would put things like my health, but maybe not the sky. It takes on a different shape. But
I love
do
how you put that.
Sorry. Oh, I know. And it's such a fine line, isn't it? Because choices in there, and the choices, Kahlia would have wanted certain things for me. She was very caring and very kind. She certainly wouldn't have wanted me hurting in the slightest. So that's where I think I've got to make the choice to make things work. So, that's the shift.
Kirsten, do you mind elaborating a little bit on what you just said about Kahlia gave you so many ways to deal with that? She taught you how to deal with it. Can you share a little bit more about that? It sounds so beautiful and so bittersweet at the same time.
Yeah, and Kahlia, with her mental health struggles, she tried, and I can honestly say she tried, and she tried as much as she could. Every time things went completely downhill, she would pick herself back up again, and she would put things in motion. So she taught me what it looked like to be strong in the face of adversity. When I look back, especially the last year of her life was severe ups and downs, but she always found the joy. She always found the happiness in that, which sounds very strange. And I don't know if I can say how she died.
But it's your story. It's absolutely okay if you want to.
Yeah, she did. She died by suicide, and that was the mental health struggles going through. I don't call it a choice. It was certainly her brain rewiring or not going into great places. But prior to that, she just tried so very, very hard. So I think it's actually my purpose, or what I need to do for her is to continue trying, and especially in her name and for people that surround us.
That's really beautiful, I have to say. Wow. I call this the hidden gifts in adversity. And I often think they are such a blessing, but just like gratitude, they can't be taken or given or received too early. They come in their own time whenever we are ready to receive them. And it seems like that you have already started to receive them prior to Kahlia's passing. And for her to be so beautiful and selfless to think about you and how you would deal with everything, it just goes to show what a huge heart she must have had. And going through these struggles, I would like to talk to you about that, because we had a bit of a pre-chat and you said you can ask me anything. And I find this is such an important question in the space of suicide, because a lot of people come from that mindset or thinking, I don't even want to call it a mindset, from that misunderstanding, let me put it that way, that it is selfish of people to do that. And I couldn't agree less. It is absolutely, it is such a bizarre thing to talk about, but I find it so important to talk about it, because many people just don't understand anything about it. And then saying, like, how can you do this to your family?
Mm.
And I'd really like to talk with you about it because you've got such a beautiful
Mm.
perspective on it, and you've got such a beautiful connection with your daughter that I believe you're the right person to bring this topic to the table and put an end to that once and for all, because this has got nothing to do with being selfish.
No.
It has got everything to do with not seeing any other way.
Mm. And it is something,
I
yeah.
hand it over to you.
No, and it is the narrative that is out there, and I've been asked this question so many times, and
Yeah.
I even, to be honest, was asked the question a little while ago, and someone said, "I can't believe that Kahlia would have done that to you," and now I understand that it wasn't that. So it is shifting in our circles, but the narrative is that it's selfish. But basically, what it comes to is a not sane brain. So in that moment well, I believe in that moment where it comes to that decision or the days before, their brain is thinking of something else. They're not thinking of you or their job or their friends or anything like that. It is purely the responses in their body, in their mind. The pain is just too much. So if you look at biologically, so you've got basically the limbic system, which is the emotional system in your body, it's completely overloaded. So we have what's called an amygdala, which is part of the brain, and it is sending out these panic signals. So the prefrontal cortex, the front part of your brain, doesn't work anymore. So it's not, the brain's actually not thinking logically at all. So when people put these questions like, that's selfish to do that, the brain's not thinking in that way at all. The brain is harmed and it's damaged, and it's from a trauma response. It's and also this, I mean, in Kahlia's sort of, her stage, it was years and years and years of this. It's not one night. It's not a quick response. The brain has rewired in this way that it feels normal to feel that way as well. So Kahlia, in her sane brain, would never have done this. She was the most kindest, most empathetic person I've ever met in my whole life. I used to say that she was the better version of me. She was just a person I really admired and loved. And if you had said to her, "You'll hurt your mum," she would never have done it. But in that time, that logic is gone. And they also, the brain rewires itself, and they're feeling so sad and so agonized that their brain is actually thinking, "I'm helping. I don't want to be a burden." Yeah. So it's completely telling you, your brain is telling yourself complete lies.
Yeah. Wow. Kirsten, I know that you have, or are in the process. I'm not really sure if you're finished now or not.
I am. Yeah.
There's a book, Life After Kahlia. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me the full title. I know there's a long subtitle.
the Year After Kahlia. Yes.
Yes. The Year After Kahlia, and the subtitle.
Yes. Oh, the subtitle, sorry. Surviving, Lighting. Sorry, I have to read it. How bad is that I can't get it? Surviving, Loving, and Writing My Way Through Loss.
Yeah. Tell me, how did this come about? When was that moment where you're like, I need to write a book about this?
So when I do speak about this in the book, I've always written. I've always been a journaler and a writer. I actually stopped journaling when Kahlia died, and then the thoughts were going around in my head, and I actually needed to write down what had happened. I was scared that I would rewrite what had happened and I'd fictionalize it, so I needed to write it. The fear there was that it made it real. However, that started the writing. Then I wrote her eulogy for her funeral, which was awful, but I wrote it as a letter to her. And that's what started the whole book, really. So I started writing to her. It was part of my communication. We spoke all the time. So it was part of me being able to talk with her, being open, and actually being able to, I call it a witness, someone to witness how I felt, because I felt that no one really understood around me. After Kahlia had, so on the anniversary of her death, I had like 6, 7 journals. It was crazy. I was writing all the time. And I just had the thought, and I don't know where the thought came. I like to think it's something from Kahlia. Something came, and I thought, no, I've got something here. This is really important. I didn't find what I needed in grief. I think that there's wonderful resources, and I certainly saw some amazing books out there, but there needs to be far more. Like one book is not going to get it. So I thought, I'm just going to write something that I need to write. It's from my journal. So the beginning part of it is, I call it from the wreckage. So it's raw, it's not easy, it's not nice. But those first places, it's just how I felt. And from that beginning part, part of my healing journey was understanding what was happening in my body and my mind, and realizing that I wasn't crazy when I thought I was. So that's after the anniversary of Kahlia's death, which is such an awful term, but there's no other term for it, is I wanted to unpack what was happening in me, what I was struggling with, why I had behaved in ways I behaved in. So the second part of the book is about, or it actually goes chapter by chapter, what I went through, what's actually happening in your body, for people to be able to understand it. And then hopefully some prompts and things like that to get writing out there, because writing is so powerful, because it actually helps that emotional center calm down and allows that logic thinking part to balance a bit more. So it's not just writing to get it out there. It is actually a response in the body.
That's so beautiful. I'm really glad that you're sharing that in such detail, because I also years ago somebody said to me, there's such a difference if you are writing on a computer or if you're actually writing by hand, because just looking down rather than looking out, what we do so often when we type on the laptop, it activates your creative brain, and it does something different when we actually write. So when I journal, I still do it by hand and not on my laptop. It's very different. For me, laptop is often sort of facts and lists and, things that need to be done, or note taking, things like that. But the actual creative process I still do by drawing, doodling, writing. Everything is just by hand and on paper and in color. I love color.
And I love that doodling, and sometimes it can be scratching out a word, that it takes the perfectionism out of it that you sometimes get from a computer.
Absolutely. I love
the
that.
the misspellings, the everything. It's very raw, and it's also through your handwriting you can actually see how you're feeling as you're writing it.
So true. I love that. I never thought about that. It makes so much sense. I wanted to ask you about your sons. Do you mind me asking how old they were when Kahlia died?
So I have two sons. So Kahlia, when she was 24 when she died, her eldest brother is 26. So he's just turned 28 now, and her younger brother was 15.
Oh wow, he's 19 now. Yeah.
Oh, 15, so he's almost 17. So Kahlia passed away a year and a half ago.
Oh, sorry. I did the math wrong. Back to school, Marie. Back to school.
I just had to think in my head how old they were, so you're okay.
How are they going nowadays?
I don't talk a huge amount about them because they've got
Totally,
their own
totally
thing.
accept that.
No,
We
and
don't need
that's
to go there.
fine. It was different relationships as well. I think my youngest son, Kahlia, was a second mother to him, so there's a different
Mm. Yeah,
relationship. And then
of course.
with my oldest son, he really grew up with Kahlia, so they go through their own struggles. But we are
Yeah.
very communicative. We
Mm.
talk about Kahlia all the time. She is
Mm.
absolutely still part of our world, and that's
Yeah.
what I is so important to me. And
Yeah.
but everyone deals with grief in different ways. And
Yes.
it's part of respecting how they
Mm.
deal with grief, their grief as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that you say that because, I've got two sons and they were 10 and 8 when their dad died, and now
Mm.
they are 17 and 15, almost 18 and 16 next month is both their birthdays. So it's such a different way how they handle their grief. And I massively respect what you just said, that you don't want to go into detail. I really appreciate that. Um, Flynn and Jed have just opened up their hearts basically to the entire world because they have co-written a chapter in my book from the
Mm.
children's perspective, which I became like it was literally a download for me to ask them to write a chapter in a book. And I kind of almost half expected for them to say no, it's too private. And both of them were a resounding yes, which really surprised me because it was such a download to ask them. And so they did that. And yes, I
It's,
can only
I just want to
expect,
say I love that. I love that you ask them because
yeah,
sometimes we can forget to ask, and
yeah,
it's
so
important to
true.
keep on
So
asking,
true,
keep that
absolutely.
communication
And
going.
yeah,
Mm.
and also like things they were happy for me to share when they were little, they might not want to share now, or vice versa. They might have been open to that years ago, and now they're like, no, I'm ready to talk about it, or I want to
Mm.
share it. It changes, and it changes for us as well. Like
Yes.
there are certain things that I was not ready to talk about shortly after Rob died, although there weren't many things that I held back with, but certain things that were either too personal or I was still in processing mode and not
Yes.
ready or didn't have the words to share them. So I feel grief is such a journey anyway
Yes.
for everyone and so unique to appreciate that and to honor that on the path. That is really
Mm.
important to me. So thank you.
Mm.
I want to hear a little bit about your website as well. You shared
Oh, yeah.
when did you start it? What can we find on there? Share a little bit.
So I've created a website and it's basically something that people can interact with. They can write to me about certain things if they want to grief bomb, if they want to write a letter,
Mm.
all those sorts of things. I have a
Yeah.
newsletter that goes out each week, but it's more just talking about different aspects of grief and the fact that it's all okay. Like everything is okay in grief. You're actually allowed to do everything. There's so
Yeah.
many rules attached. So I want to take away the rules and allow people
Yeah.
to just be who they are and how they need to do it.
Yeah.
So the website is a growing beast.
Mm.
I add to it quite regularly. So
Yeah.
I have a personal blog on there where I write about Kahlia and my
Hmm.
experiences, but then I also have an area about grief literacy, how to talk to
Mm.
other people. We don't do grief well in our society at all.
Yes. I always say
Um,
that exact same wording even.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's about different things I can add in there to help. It's all
Hmm.
helping. As long as you're coming from a good place and
Mm.
finding out about things, you can't do things wrong. It's
Yeah.
I often say that grief is not the problem, silence is. So
Oh.
that's where, yeah, people feel so
Oh,
isolated. Yeah.
that is gold.
Mm,
Absolutely gold. I love that. Grief is
mm,
not the problem, silence is. I I absolutely love this because I always say there's nothing to be fixed. People always try to
no,
fix things. That there's
no.
nothing to be fixed. You cannot fix this. But what you can do is hold space. I
Yes.
feel that society needs to learn to hold space for the grief, for the story, for the silence, for whatever there is. But we are uncomfortable with silence.
We are.
And yet it is so powerful because I would say, in that space that we create, in the pause, that's where the healing happens.
Mm,
If we don't have the space, it's like
Yeah.
smothering like a little plant that's trying to grow, you know.
And I talk about the story and the
Mm.
fact that when someone dies, our story collapses. We become chaos.
Mm.
So our brain actually needs to rewire and recreate a story. And that doesn't
Yeah,
take days or weeks, that takes months and years.
yeah,
So the fact that we expect people after the funeral to be able to be the same as they were. Oh, it's going back to our comment before the beginning, the before and the after. The after is
yeah,
very different. Our whole
yeah,
brain has changed, our whole mindset has changed, and our
yeah.
whole story has changed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It really does rewire our brain in ways that you can't even imagine. So I always love sharing these stories and the nuances with it and also the biological background. It is so interesting because once we understand, it also helps us to not try to do these things and revert back to phrases like my condolences and that's it. You know, that's not how we handle grief. That's not helping us. It's excluding us from the rest and isolating us. And we don't heal well in isolation. We need community to be there
Agreed.
for us, to hold us. So I love that. Um, Before I let you go, Kirsten, I always like to ask this at the end, if anybody listening to this or potentially even going through something similar,
Mm.
what would be the one thing that you'd really like them to get away from this? If it's just one thing that you could pinpoint where, like, I wish somebody would have told me that, what would
Mm.
that be?
Can't do it wrong. You absolutely
Yeah,
can't do it wrong. And
yeah.
you're doing your best and you're surviving,
Oh,
and just one breath at a time. Yeah.
oh, wow. I could feel such a relief when you said that. There's that instant relief, you know, there is so much expectation from society, and I
Yes.
find that very suffocating and debilitating and not helpful at all. So, thank you for saying that. Thank you for being here. One last quick thing before I let you go. I know it was the last thing before, but when's your book coming out and how can people get it?
Oh, my book's coming out in February. So I have
Yeah,
pre-sales in January. They're available from my site at this stage. And
yes,
we'll have audio book as well as paperback copy.
perfect. Love it. I love that you did the audiobook. I still
Mm.
haven't done any of my books in audio. People keep asking, and I'm like, last priority, not right now. There's always too much to do. So I
Sometimes
need
it's
some
hard.
tips from you.
Sometimes it's hard to read. It's easier to listen. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
mm.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree from the receiving end, but the doing it and recording it, we'll talk about that off screen. Kirsten, thank you so much for being here. Anybody listening to this, we will be sharing the links how you can get to Kirsten's website, how you can pre-order the book as of January. We share all of that in the show notes. So if there's anything that you would like to find out, just go on her website and connect with her. And if you like what you listened to today, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell for weekly updates on Unsilence Grief. Thank you so much for being here. This is Kirsten and Marie.